There'll be a panel for questions. So I trust you can see how difficult it is to define a complex problem like young adult colorectal cancer, and Becky is really leading the way. Could we bring up my slides, please, which is Weber overview of global data? That would be a big help. And then we will have a panel where we can ask some questions. That's it. It doesn't really start there, though. Thank you so much. OK, great. So as many of us tried to ponder what in the world was going on, that's a bit of a pun, we realized that we needed to look at international data. And as some of you will know, we are fortunate that there are agencies publicly funded around the world that are trying to better understand cancer incidence patterns. This includes the International Agency for Cancer Research, which of course is associated with the World Health Organization, and others. And speaking frankly, thanks to our work with Rebecca, I'm going to be able to show you some additional embargoed slides, which are the latest data from the 5-continent survey of the International Agency for Cancer Research pertaining to young adult colorectal cancer around the world. Now, we're over time, so I'm going to give you a whirlwind tour. OK, and I'm also going to be very adventurous and see if I can make the, I wanted to make the pointer work. If anyone can come and tell me about that, that would be great. So this is the data that Rebecca just showed you. This is the United States, and you can see that the trend is unmistakable. All right, so the global agencies that look at our data agree with what Rebecca just told you, that the incidence is increasing and that there's a very strong cohort effect. So to understand what's going on in our great country, we really need to look carefully at the rest of the world. And there are some interesting surprises. Now, you'll see here, I don't know where that pointer came from. If someone could tell me, oh, is that it? If someone could tell me how to use it, it would be great. But in any event, you can see that in Australia, there are dramatic increases in young adult colorectal cancer. Just to the north in Canada, we also see changes. And I want to draw your attention to the fact that for most places in the world I'm going to show you, there's an inflection point on these graphs. Inflection points are extremely important to nerdy people like me, because it really prompts this thing. Great. Science is so wonderful. So there's the inflection point here in Canada, and you can see that it's very, very similar. That's important because we all have a sense that we're talking about something in the environment. The human genome has not undergone a major alteration responsible for these changes over these few years, at least not that we've been able to show. Denmark, an increase. Germany, an increase. The Netherlands, an increase, an inflection point. Norway. Norway is a remarkable country with one of the strongest and most sustained increases in the incidence of colon and rectal cancer on the planet, interrupted only by the Nazi occupation. For a few years following that, the incidence went down. But since then, it's been on its way back up, including young people. Switzerland, the United Kingdom, Korea. And this is very important. Some of you who are still awake will notice that the baseline is much, much lower. But that's why this data from India is so important. Those of us who work in international cancer control have always generally understood that because of the extensive plant-based diet in India, overall colorectal cancer incidence rates are low, which is true. However, you can see that for young people, the situation is changing. But we're honest about the data, right? We don't cherry pick. Okay, we don't make it just fit our little story. So you can see that for a number of countries, things are going down. And this is something that we have to come to terms with and talk about and try and understand. So in Italy, the incidence is decreasing. Japan is decreasing. Lithuania, which I don't think of too often, for some reason is decreasing. But this is very important, right? So it's important to take in the entire picture. And then, of course, we have Brazil, where things are, things are always exciting in Brazil. So we go up, and then we go down. And then, I don't know exactly why, but we're going to look into it. And then in New Zealand, which, of course, is a very calm and stable place, nevertheless, an inflection point at exactly the same time, very, very far away from here. And now they're experiencing an increased rate for young adults. So I think the point is that trying to approach this problem, it's extremely important to be aware of what's happening around the world. And we're very, very fortunate to have a number of presenters and participants from across the globe with us today to talk about this data.